Hey guys, it's Protendo, and I want to start this video off by saying that I love the Switch to death. In its 3 years of life, it has already become one of my most played video game systems of all time, and its versatility is very much appreciated. The console also features some of my absolute favorite games, titles that I'm sure will be considered phenomenal even after decades have passed. But despite this, there are some elements of the system that I personally think are very poorly handled, and the one that we'll be talking about today is the Switch's menus. The quality of a system's UI is much more important than most would think. Menus are the first thing you see when starting up a console, and they obviously come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are flashy, some are bland, some are fast, some are slow, some are good, and some are the Switch's home menu. Okay, in all seriousness, this thing isn't as bad as some people say. Like, I'm not insulted by looking at this. It's decently fast and gets the job done. But what really disappoints me is how un-Nintendo the whole thing feels. When I think of Nintendo consoles, I think of charming systems that are just oozing with personality and little details. The Switch's home menu is just barren. I don't feel anything from looking at this. I mean, there's not even music. The Wii, Wii U, and 3DS didn't have full-on orchestras playing every time you booted up the system, but they still had these ambient looping tracks that would play softly as you explore the home screen. And these are a perfect example of things you don't even notice until they're gone. These themes blended so well into the flow of scrolling through different games and apps that I barely noticed they were there until they weren't. I do think that the Switch has good audio design on the home menu in terms of the sound effects that are used while scrolling, clicking, tapping, or whatever else you're doing, but without the subtle background music, they only end up making the Switch's lack of a home theme more apparent, thereby accentuating the hollowness felt while picking a game. But that's just how the menu sounds. How about how it looks? Once again, it seems rather normal, but things start to slip through the cracks when you compare it to previous Nintendo systems. Now, this is definitely a matter of personal preference, but in terms of looks, the Switch menu really doesn't scream Nintendo to me. Maybe that's a good thing for some of you. But when I think of Nintendo menus, I think soft, bouncy, colorful. The Switch's UI is much more rigid and monochromatic in comparison. I'm assuming that after the failure of the Wii U, which Nintendo heavily advertised as a children's console,
tapping a Yarn Yoshi amiibo? Woshi! It's a double Yoshi explosion!
they decided to go full steam ahead and make the Switch look a lot more mature. This is evident in their new advertising, and I do think that that was a very smart decision overall, but it also feels like along the way, they lost a lot of what makes Nintendo, Nintendo. I mean, look at the Mii Maker. Not only is it hidden deep away in the menus as if Nintendo's ashamed of it or something, but choosing to create a Mii brings you to yet another bland, musicless menu. It just doesn't feel right. And of course, I can't talk about the Switch menu without mentioning themes. I'm not going to discuss this extensively since every single person on the internet has already done so, but I will say that it's incredibly disappointing that they aren't here, and honestly, sort of illogical. You see, the lack of themes on Switch is what I like to call a Nintendo moment. What is a Nintendo moment, you ask? Well, a Nintendo moment is where Nintendo actively avoids letting us give them money for something that would be very inexpensive for them to integrate. Why do they do this? Well, it's not for us mortals to know. But seriously, Nintendo sold themes on the 3DS for $1 or $2, and people went nuts with them. Fans love being able to represent their favorite games visually on their favorite system, and Nintendo not pursuing this with the Switch hurts them more than it hurts us. Especially since Joy-Con allow the Switch to be one of the most customizable Nintendo systems ever from the outside. Extending that level of customization to the inside seems like a no-brainer. But there's one more thing I want to talk about in this video before it ends. The Nintendo Switch eShop. Ouch, this one hurts, guys. Back in the early 3DS and Wii U days, I remember scrolling the eShop for fun. Literally, I would sit on my couch skimming the games on display with 0 funds to my name. Sometimes I'd find a demo or two to try out. Why is this? Was I just a weird kid? Possibly, but it's also because these were just really well-crafted eShop layouts. The menus were vibrant, appealing to the eye, and most importantly, had music. Once again, the Switch continues its trend of despising menu music by providing nothing in this regard. And that's something that I cannot and will not understand. I mean, the other things, sure, I can sorta get them. The Switch's UI is sort of bland looking because Nintendo is backpedaling from the Wii U. Okay. The system doesn't have themes yet because it would take some form of work to do, even if it's a minimal amount of work. Got it. But I can't understand why Nintendo refuses to use any of the high-quality, catchy themes that they made for the 3DS and Wii U eShops. Like, you don't have to make new tracks, you're just adding music you already made to an inadequate online store. I don't see the issue. Despite everything else I've said in this video, this might be one of the Switch's most infuriating missteps because it's so easy. They could do it whenever they want at no cost to them, yet they don't, and I don't understand why. But anyways guys, I think I'm just about done hating on the menuing of a system I love. Sorry for those who were expecting me to talk about achievements or messaging or things like that, but there really wasn't anything for me to say besides, I want this, why doesn't Nintendo have this, in regards to those features. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video anyways. Make sure to let me know what you think about the Switch's UI in the comments, even if you disagree with something I said in the video. I'll see you guys later. Protendo, out.